everybody. Dan Illman and Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Wednesday, October 21st. Race number 7 at Keeneland. Let's throw up the field for a very competitive entry-level allowance on the beard course. About 7 furlongs, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. Download free formulator past performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Access them, handicap along with us. Mike, as our friends at home will see when we reveal our picks at the end of this segment, this is a race where you could make a case for, 6 of the 8.
Yeah, it is a pretty wide open race. It's actually a very interesting race, too, because you have a lot of horses who I feel like they have talent, but I think they're really going to benefit from cutting back in distance for this race.
And several of them are cutting back from two-turn races. The pace dynamic of this race, fascinating as well. As we throw up the Timeform US pace projector, it's a blue bar scenario in Timeform US parlance. That means this race could favor horses on or near the early lead. The 7 Sensation, who was 20-1 on the morning line, has some early speed. I would think that if the number 2, O Serafina, is ready to go off the February layoff, however, Mike, I would think she's going to make the lead.
Yeah, I can see that horse being forward in this race, but it is a little bit of a confusing pace scenario, Dan, because listen, the 7 does have some speed, even if she does look like she may be a little overmatched here. And then everybody else, I don't know how much they want to be on the lead. And as you say, a lot of them are cutting back in distance. So we'll see how their speed, early speed translates.
A horse that does seem to have some tactical speed, as we see on the projector, the number 1 Chicklet, is Impeccable Style. And Impeccable Style has done some nice things in her career. She hasn't raced since early July, when second in the Indiana Oaks behind She Dares the Devil, who of course came back to win the Kentucky Oaks with a 101 Buyer's speed figure. There were 2 other next style winners to emerge from the Indiana Oaks. After that race, she went through public auction. She sold for $275,000. She's now in the Brendan Walsh shed row. Interesting that she cuts back in distance, but she handled the 7 furlongs no problem last year.
She did. I mean, her debut at Saratoga, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. I mean, that was a race that was fairly dominated towards the lead, and she was wide most of the way. I liked her maiden win, Dan, in her next start. That was over 7 furlongs, and it's the last time that she has sprinted. I actually felt like her race 2 back, that allowance race going 2 turns at Churchill. I thought she ran well that day, and I feel like a race like that, or building off of it, gives her a real chance in here.
A horse that I think is going to be very forwardly placed is somewhat of the X factor in this race, the number 2, O Serafina. O Serafina, 3 starts back, finished first, way ahead of eventual graded stakes winner Bonnie South. Now, she was disqualified for a medication violation in that race. In her very next start, the Martha Washington Stakes, she was second to an extremely talented yet ill-fated Taraz. And then last time out at Oaklawn, she earned an 84 Buyer's speed figure as a February 3-year-old in Dominating Maidens. She's got some ability, but she's coming back off a long layoff.
Yeah, and I guess the question would have to be, where has she been since this maiden win right here at Oaklawn? I mean, this is pretty impressive, and as you say, relatively fast win as well for a February 3-year-old, and she hasn't run since this race. And you feel like something happened in the interim. We'll see what she does here. She obviously has some ability. They're going to sprint her off the layoff here, and maybe sprinting will be fine, especially if she can make the lead or get very forwardly placed in this race. I think all those things could help her, Dan. I'm going to wait and see what kind of price she is. I think she's pretty good. I just wouldn't take a short price on her.
The 3 is Union Maiden, and let's go back to Union Maiden's last race at 7 furlongs at Saratoga, where she ran an even third against a bunch of allowance horses. We see her on the far outside trying to get into this race, and she just can't kick on with the top 2. It was sort of an even performance. Yes, it was a career best Buyer speed figure of 78, but to me, she's the kind of filly that might need a little pace in front of her, and I'm a bit surprised Chad hasn't stretched her out yet. She's by Union Rags, and they are intent at keeping her around 1 turn.
Yeah, we'll see what she does here. I think she's okay. I did feel like even going into that Saratoga race that she was sort of slowly putting things together, taking steps forward. It felt like from race to race. And she was finding more tactical speed too. So all those things just sort of felt like she was just a really progressive 3-year-old filly. I guess all in all, she ran fine last time, Dan. I mean, I wasn't blown away by it. I think the 1-2 finishers of that race are both pretty good, though. And this filly did take another step forward. She's fine. I can see her winning this race. They have a very fair price on the morning line, I think.
After 4 consecutive 2 turn races with the turf. I think the turn back is just what the doctor ordered for the 4, Aurelia Garland. I loved her debut at 5 furlongs. Then she came off a long layoff. She ran just fine against 4 Graces, who was a very fleet sprinter. And after that, they tried to rout her, and that's where the money is. I can understand that. I thought she ran okay in the Iowa Oaks, 3 starts back behind next out winner Flat Out Speed. Too bad she was simply overmatched against Harvest Moon, who goes into the Breeders' Cup Distaff after winning the Grade 2 Zenyatta with a 97 buyer. And last time out on turf, she didn't have to love that surface. I think she's a really interesting bounce back candidate on the cutback.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't want to really add anything to what you said, Dan. I mean, I think you sort of nailed it. All the things that I was going to, allude to on paper. It just feels like this is a really good spot for her, cutting back to a distance that is much better for her.
Story Blue might be up against it from a pace standpoint, but I think there are some things to like. This will be a 3rd start of the form cycle, and for a filly that doesn't have a lot of early speed, I don't think those racetracks in Southern California are conducive to her style at all. I think she's going to appreciate the deeper main track at Keeneland. Her most recent race, I mean, she just basically was 3-4 path all the way around the track in that 2-turn race and couldn't make up any meaningful ground. Now, the lack of pace could work against her, but I think at a price she could be coming late for a good trainer in Mike McCarthy.
I can see her taking a step forward here as well. Another horse cutting back, and that could really help her. I don't know where that race came from last time, Dan, from the winner of that race, Stellar Sound, but that was a pretty impressive winner, I thought, of that race. And so Story Blue really had no chance with her. All in all, I thought she ran fine in that race, and that was her first dirt start since she bumped into Donna Veloce off the layoff there. So, I mean, there are certainly things to like about this horse.
As there are about the 6 Brassy, 15-1 on the morning line for a beautifully bred filly. It's only raced once on dirt. That was way back in March when she was in the Tom Albertrani shed row. And we know Albertrani doesn't like to win first time out. This filly took some money and missed the break completely. So draw a line through that race. She returned for Owen Hardy at Woodbine. This is a nice victory for Brassy. Let's watch that race right now. Coming from off the pace in the Godolphin Blue, she's going to run by this leader, and Empire Angel, the horse that she does go by, came back to win her very next start. One of 2 next out winners from this race, Empire Angel earning a 71 buyer and winning a maiden special.
Yeah, both of the horses that came out of this race to win really improved in their next starts. This really won this race very easily, Dan. A very confident ride all the way around the track, kept her out in the clear to make sure she didn't have any trouble. And she won very easily in that race. I was pretty impressed with it. Her debut back in March at Aqueduct broke right on her face in there. As you mentioned, she took some money in that race, right to her knees at the start, her nose basically right down into the dirt. And after that, they just kept her wide all the way around the track. She was widest into the stretch, and she actually made a little bit of a run between calls before she got tired. I mean, all in all, I thought that was a fairly promising debut considering what she went through. And when she came back off the layoff in August, I thought she took a really big step forward. I'm very intrigued by this filly.
Some angles for the longest shot on the morning line, the 7 Sensation, include turf to dirt, route to sprint, and the potential of her being the lone speed in a Timeform US blue bar situation. That being said, her buyer speed figures pale in comparison to those of the main contenders. She did win the last time she tried the main track at this distance at 13-1, but she's going to have to improve off that race.
It just feels like, yeah, she's going to have to take a big step forward. I do respect the fact that she could make the lead in here. I mean, I guess that's possible. I still don't know, even if she gets loose, Dan, I still don't know if I think she's good enough to beat this field. I think this is a good field.
The 5th place finisher from that Churchill Downs maiden win came back to win a maiden at Churchill with a 70 buyer. I kind of could go either way with the 8 Never Forget, who's your 3-1 morning line favorite, coming off a graded stakes placing in the 8 Bells. Yes, she ran well in the 8 Bells, and she earned by far her career best buyer speed figure. But I wonder if you could make the argument that she was kind of sucked to that buyer by benefit of the pace situation. There was a wicked duel in front of her. Never Forget hung back way off the pace, and she kind of just picked up the pieces to run third.
She did. Listen, it was another step in the right direction for her. That's the 3rd time in a row that she's improved. So that is one way to look at her, Dan, is that she's just a 3-year-old filly who's getting better from race to race. And, it's, far from impossible for that to be the case. She ran fine last time, but she did take advantage a little bit. I wouldn't bet her as the favorite. I also don't know if I really feel like she's going to be the favorite here.
She has worked really, really well at Keeneland, though, on October the 10th, a half mile in 46 seconds flat. So that allays fears of any kind of bounce or aggression off of that 8 bells, and she draws a comfortable outside post position with some tactical speed. Let's take a look at our top picks. As I mentioned, a wide open race. We're all over the place in here. We're both going to try to get some prices home, however. Brassy, the 6, is 15-1 on the morning line.
Yeah, I wanted a price in this race. As I said before when we were discussing, I'm intrigued by her, Dan. I think she ran better than it looked first time out. I liked her maiden win a lot last time. And coming back to dirt really is not supposed to be a problem for her. I'm going to try her at a price in this race. The 1 and the 4 are really, to me, I thought they were the 2 horses to beat in here. But they're also both going to be short prices. And I had a tough time separating the 2 of them, Dan. So I'm just going to go a totally different direction.
Story Blue lacks the upside of your top selection, the number 6, Brassy, but I just have a feeling that getting away from Southern California and those hard dirt tracks are going to work to her advantage. Now, whether she gets the right pace setup, I'm not sure, but I think she's relatively unexposed on the dirt. You mentioned the last race. That filly just kind of improved very markedly. In the time before that, she was in against Donna Veloci. So Mike's going 6-1-4-3. I'm going 5-8-2-4 with your Wednesday race of the day. It is race number 7 at Keeneland. Best of luck.